If you're looking to make big horsepower in your Subaru STI or your WRX, your fuel system is going to need an upgrade. Today we're going to go over some fuel system stuff, talk about some talking points, what you're going to need to make certain power goals, and we're going to install the fuel system on our 400 package STI that we're getting almost finished with. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about our fuel system. Okay, so if you're going to be upgrading your turbocharger and looking for more horsepower, somewhere in the realm of 350 to 400 wheel horsepower, you're going to need at minimum some bigger fuel injectors. We really like upgrading to the Cobb/ID1050X. You can get them through Cobb, but they're made by Injector Dynamics. Injector Dynamics is the primo for fuel injectors in our opinion. They are a little bit pricier than some of the competition, but they are extremely consistent and we rarely ever have failures with them. The 1050X is a really nice sweet spot for the all the way from factory horsepower levels if you're wanting to switch over to ethanol, all the way up to around 500 wheel. They're kind of going to be at the limits of the fuel injector at that point. At that point you'd upgrade to a 1300, but the 1050X is a really good starting point if you're starting to upgrade your car. Us being Midwest based, we are a big fan of ethanol and using flex fuel with our STIs. Flex fuel is a component that you add into your ECU. It uses one of these Continental flex fuel sensors, and what this does is it analyzes the fuel going into the engine to sense the ethanol content before it starts, entering the vehicle or the engine itself. When you're doing flex fuel, you at minimum need to do a bigger liter per hour fuel pump and bigger injectors. You can get away with the factory fuel lines for a while, but we really like upgrading them to a 6 AN PTFE fuel line. And we like using the PTFE because the liner holds up to alcohol and ethanol for a really long time. It's rated for it. You can get away with doing some different type of hoses, but we really like the PTFE lined hoses from Vibrant specifically. So one of the reasons you'd switch over to an ethanol based fuel is ethanol burns a lot cooler, but most importantly it has a much higher octane rating than a normal 91 or 93 that you'd find at the gas pump. Now, like I said, us here in the Midwest, we can get ethanol basically anywhere we want. But if you're on the coasts or down south, it might be a little bit trickier. So before you dive down the path of switching over to an ethanol-based fuel or flex fuel, maybe do some research and see where it's located around locally. But the benefit of flex fuel, like I brought up, is as the ECU reads the fuel going into the engine, it can make calculations and adjust the tune on the spot. You don't have to pull over, drain your tank, switch your map, do anything like that. It adjusts by itself. So I can get in this car, fill it completely full of 91 octane, drive 600 miles, and then when it's empty, I get to my destination where I want to have a little bit of fun, fill up the car back with ethanol, and then you can go rip through the canyons. So in today's video, you're going to watch me install our aftermarket fuel system onto our 400 package STI that we've been putting together. We're going to be using our off-the-line performance fuel rails, our an AEM 340 liter per hour fuel pump. Those are a really solid option. I've yet to have one of those fail out of the box. They're super reliable. I think the last one that I replaced was like 10 years old. So really solid product there. We're also going to be using an aftermarket fuel pressure regulator. When you ditch the entire factory front half fuel system, meaning from this point here, from the firewall all the way forward around the engine, you have to add a aftermarket fuel pressure regulator because the factory one's built into the factory fuel lines. So we really like using Aeromotive. Fuel Lab is also a great option for those, but the Aeromotive is kind of our, creme de la creme, what we really like putting on customer cars. I know that some people have some questions about running their fuel lines in series versus parallel. You'll see me install ours today in series, whereas if you buy a Cobb or IAG fuel line kit, they run them in parallel. I have personally seen absolutely no difference in running them one way or the other. Pressure is absolute. The fuel is going to go to wherever it needs to go on its own. I've made all the way up to 1200 horsepower with a series routed fuel line system and had absolutely no issues. So if you're wondering about that, I know that the parallel lines can look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing if you route them really nicely, but in terms of simplicity and minimizing leak points, I like doing series routing better. With all that being said, we're going to get into the video. Now we need to build up some fuel lines. Eric, fabricator over there, extraordinaire, made me this nice little ethanol sensor bracket that we're now going to offer because these are super useful. But that is going to go right here behind this little bolt provision, and it's just going to sit right like this. We need to make a line from our return side of our regulator to this, and then this to the firewall. Got our ethanol sensor bracket on here and got our sensor plugged in. Now I got some nice vibrant PTFE fittings. I think I'm gonna do a 90 and a 90 here, make a little hose there, and then I'm gonna 180 this one out and then go right up to there. All right, first things first, I'm gonna take this adapter fitting. It goes from 5/16 fuel line, like a quick disconnect, to 6 AN, and we're gonna put that on our return side right here on the firewall. Get that clipped in, like so. Find our end of our tape here, which is somewhere. Quick tip, doing PTFE hose. Slide your collar on first before you fray this, and then just take a pocket screwdriver. What I like to do is just stick it between the braided and the Teflon layer and just open that gap up just a little bit, because that will make it easier for you to get your insert here, and just slide it right in there. I love working with fresh fittings, dude. Need wrench. These soft jaws for the vise make making AN lines very, very easy. Okay. Good stuff, good stuff. All right, got our 180 fitting on. Now we're just gonna get our straight fitting on, and this is gonna lay right like this. Right like that. And since I'm cutting these hoses with a cutoff wheel, we are going to blow out the hose every single time. Every single time we're gonna blow out the hose. That's nice, dude. Okay. Let me get this one back over there and we'll assemble it. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Last one. This is going to go from the bottom side of our regulator right here on the low pressure side right over to our ethanol sensor. And as soon as I put this on, then our fuel system is complete. I'm sweating because I'm sick, I'm not working hard. Okay, fuel lines are all finished. You can see here we have our regulator mounted directly onto the rail. Sometimes I do that just to save space, and this guy already has a nice pair and pitch stop mount and his fuel flex fuel analyzer and stuff here. So to save space, I just mounted it straight off the rail. We have our fuel pressure sensor here. So what's going to happen here is fuel is going to come out, hit our regulator, hit the desired PSI. It's going to come out, go through our ethanol analyzer right here, and then go to the return. So we are going to break for lunch real quick. I'm going to tidy up the engine bay, get all my tools and stuff put away because we're effectively done up here. And then when we get back from lunch, we will put in our fuel pump, and then it's done. We're basically finished. So cut to last thing to do here is install our fuel pump. So we're going to go into the back seat, get the factory hanger out, and then I'm going to get the hanger over on the bench, and I'm going to do a nice little tutorial on how to put the pump in because it is a little tricky. Let's get into it. Okay. Ready? All right, so to get the back seat out, there's a little pull tab right here on the front of the seat. I already did that side. So we're gonna pull this forward and it'll just pull right out. Gonna tip it up like so. Get this out of the way. We've got 4 Phillips head screws right here holding down this cover, and then there is like, I don't know, 8 or 9 8mm fasteners holding the actual hanger down. Okay, got those out of the way. I like to take this grommet and push it through, like so. We can peel this up out of the way. I have yet to find a good way to take these off without breaking them or without ripping the foam, so I usually just side with ripping the foam a little bit. You can try to mitigate it a little bit, but just kind of gotta peel that off like so. And to get this wire out of the way, we're just gonna wiggle the connector. Should come right off. Okay, we've got that out of our way now. I'm actually just gonna pass this back through. Set it over here. We'll get our fuel lines taken off. Now with all of those out of the way, you can take our 8mm. Take all these off. Okay. Now that that's off, there is 3 different things we need to line up when we put this back on, just a heads up. There is a little gasket here that's green and gray. That gets indexed into this upper plate. And then there is a bottom seal that we'll have to line up as well, because this bolt configuration is not square and it does have a specific way that it needs to go back on. So we'll take this, get it outside of the car since it's got fuel on it. And then before we pull the hanger up, we're gonna pull this seal up off of the actual tank, because we'll take it with us, or at least set it outside. Let's get this thing out. This is going to have fuel in it when you pull it out, so be mindful of that. Try not to get it all over your interior. Careful. All right, we have our fuel tank assembly here, or fuel hanger assembly, rather. In our AEM 340 box, we have a pigtail that we are not going to need, the pump itself, 2 O-rings, and there's these, the filter here. And inside this filter bag, there's this little lockdown. We'll get into that later on, but for now, we're gonna start by taking this top seal off, setting it to the side. You'll notice I have a nice little assortment of pocket screwdrivers here. That is because there's all of these tabs that all have to be released at the same time, and it can be really tricky if you don't have enough tools. So I usually always just get more than I know I'm not gonna need. But we're gonna start by taking these connectors loose. We'll get the wires out of the little hold down that's chilling here. Like so. Just need to get them on the other side of that. There we go. Okay, now we can pull these down. This one is just for the fuel level sender, so it's gonna chill. We don't have to mess with that one at all. We just have to get it unplugged so we can separate the actual hanger. This one is our actual fuel pump, power and ground. And it's fighting me. Got that one loose. Once you get that loose, you're going to want to take a smaller pocket screwdriver, and you're going to stick it in through here and try to hit the connector that's on top of the pump. Just like that. Peel that off, leave it to the side. Now we can get all of our tabs here. And what I try to do is kind of get the screwdriver up like that, and hopefully keep it there. You kind of just gotta go around in a circle. I bet there's probably a really, really good trick to holding these open that I just don't know yet. Something like that. Last one right here. Take that loose. Then I'll take a thicker screwdriver and just twist this right here.
and it should pry it up, just like that. Okay, we're going to pull this out the top. Okay, first thing you're going to want to do, there is an O-ring that always gets stuck in the bottom of the hanger. We'll usually grab a pick tool, pull that thing out. We are going to reuse this O-ring so long as it is not damaged, and it goes right on the bottom of the, I believe this is the venturi for it right here. Okay, it's going to go right there. The next tricky bit, and probably is the hardest part of this, is getting the actual pump out. If you look, there is a lock tab. Actually, I'll show you on here. On these pumps, both the OEM and the AEM, both of them, there are these lock tabs right here on the pump itself. And to get it out, you have to release those lock tabs. So what you have to do is you have to take another set of pocket screwdrivers and you have to sort of try to wedge it in there till it releases. And you have to do both of them at the same time. All right, there it goes. I've had some practice. Now, once again, this O-ring for the pump outlet always gets stuck in there. So we're going to pull this one out. And we won't reuse this one. Instead, we are going to take this collar that's right here on the factory pump, pull it off, set it onto our new AEM pump, and then those two O-rings that came with the pump, we are going to put both O-rings onto the pump. And I know that that's like against the rules in building cars and automotive, so you never double O-ring something. But trust me, you have to double O-ring these. You will not make fuel pressure. For whatever reason, you have to double O-ring it. I don't know why. I've always done it this way. The one time I didn't do this, double O-ring it, was on my own car, and I put the pump in and started the car up, and it would like barely run because it was not making much fuel pressure. And that's when I called Justin, and he said double O-ring it. So double O-ring the pump, and usually just take like a little bit of oil or grease or whatever, anything that's slick, and just pre-lube this O-ring just a little bit so that it goes in nice. But before we do that, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. We have to put the filter on. This part is also really tricky because this is the hold down for the filter. Got that in view? Yeah? That is your hold down. I always tell people, anytime you're doing this job, always do it over a bench. Don't be holding the pump up against your chest or something like that, or trying to work over an open space, because if this thing falls, you're gonna have a heck of a time finding it. So, what I do, take your pump, put the filter onto the pump, nice, just like that. Now that hold down tab, this guy, is going to go right on this stud right here. The best way I've found to get it put on is to sort of position it as best you can. See, and even this one's being finicky. Sort of like that. Try to, at least. It's tricky, man. This part's really, really finicky. They started shipping them with different tie downs that I actually like a lot more, but this one must have been an older unit. That. And then the best tool that I've found is actually 90-degree angle pliers. What I'll do is try to spread the pliers so that it kind of straddles that stud, and then you just push straight down. Sort of going. After you get it started with the pliers, then you can finish it off with the screwdriver and just kind of shove it down a little bit more. All right, just like that. Now our pump is ready for installation. We've got it lubed up with some oil. We're just gonna stab her in. All right, now it's clipped in, it's held in. The sock is in its correct position. Now we can reassemble. So we're gonna take our connector here for the pump, and we're going to get it connected. Take this wire, thread it back through, and get that plugged in. All right. Now, just need to make sure that our Venturi O-ring is in place, which it is, and then we can put the outer housing back on. We'll just snap all that in, like so. Put our level sensor harness back through the tie down and get it plugged in. And that's it. Pump is installed. So now we are going to put it back in the car, and then we can key on a couple times. We can check for fuel leaks, and then after that, it's ready to start up. Hooray. What I did here, out of the car, I lined up this gasket, because like I said, it only fits one way, and it can be kind of tricky to position it in the car. So I've got it sort of indexed now. I'm not going to swear on our YouTube channel, but anyway, I'll get it dropped in here. Biggest thing to be careful for is your float or your level sensor. Just tuck that in like that. Get your fuel lines up on the top side, and then you can drop this thing in. Just like that. Okay. And it should sit totally flush after you push it down. Remember, there's those springs on the actual housing itself, so you do have to push the springs down, but it should sit perfectly flat. You should not have any gaps or anything. And do not crank down on it with your impact or your wrench until you have it sitting fully flat by hand, because if it's cockeyed a little bit and you tighten down the ring, it can crack the actual tank itself, and then you have to replace the tank or do a bunch of putty to try to seal it up, and it just sucks. So don't do that. We're gonna get these 8mm nuts put back in place. And then we'll put our fuel lines on, put the cover back on, and then we're done. Okay, those are all tight. We'll get our dust cover put back on. It goes like this. Yep. And actually we're gonna set it in like that. Again, if you work on Subarus regularly and you've figured out a way to not rip the foam, please tell me, because I have not figured out a way to do that yet. We'll put our grommet back in here. Plug our connector in. And then sort of just kind of try to line the foam up so that it still acts well as a dust cover. Now we'll put our seat back in. All right, done. All right, we got our downpipe and heat shielding onto the turbo. We got our fuel system finished up, and we also just did the rest of the assembly that we needed to do. Now it is ready for Junior to tune it on our dyno. In the next video, we're gonna do some dyno pulls. We're gonna do first startup, first driving impressions, and some beauty shots, of course, because Richard is the king of beauty shots. So, if you see anything in this video that you want for your car, head over to offthelineperformance.com. Everything that we install in the video, we try to have on the website. If there's something you want for your car that we don't offer, let us know. We'll figure out how to get it for you. Like, comment, subscribe like we said before, and we'll see you in the final video of our OTL 400 package install.